Opposition from President-elect Trump and billionaire Tesla CEO Elon Musk saw Speaker Mike Johnson's original spending bill implode last week in the House. Now, a slew of priorities left off the final agreement will be added onto the growing 2025 to-do list for Republicans. We want to bring in Laura Weiss, Punchbowl News tax and financial services reporter, joining us now. Laura, a lot to break down. I think one of the big takeaways from what has played out over the last several days is the disagreement that's clearly evident right now within the GOP party. When we talk about the to-do list, the longer and longer to-do list here for Republicans, so much of that was what has gotten the market excited here over the last month and a half. Does this signal a very bumpy road ahead, and what should we expect?
Yeah, it absolutely does signal a bumpy road ahead. I mean, you saw this week, keeping the government open, that's really one of Congress's most basic jobs. Republicans thought they had a deal. And then, Elon Musk and then President-elect Trump were not on board and really came in at the last minute to make this much, much harder. And then you saw 38 House Republicans were really unwilling to take the deal that President-elect Donald Trump wanted. He wanted the debt limit sort of cleared away for the next 2 years to make his first couple of years in office simpler and easier, and they said no. And so I think that really showed how difficult, especially the House, is going to be next year. There's an extremely thin majority for Republicans. They're, for a while next year, expected to have basically a 1-seat majority because of some, House members who Trump tapped for administration posts. And so it's going to be extremely hard to wrangle them and get some of those things that, like you mentioned, the market's excited about done, like tax cuts.
Yeah, Laura, it sounds like getting those tax cuts extended is by no means a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, basically there's a deadline here, right? On December 31st, the Trump tax cuts, much of them from 2017, expire. And taxes would go up, if that is allowed to happen. And that would be a disaster for Republicans, really, who ran on tax cuts. And so I think it's still, not looking like that's going to happen. They're planning to pass a tax bill that's going to be on the very top of the priority list. But there are certainly members of Congress I speak to who are really concerned about this getting done because they know how important it is to their agenda and to Trump. But the House is going to be a really difficult place to get agreement. And we've seen that the last couple of years. We saw it last week, and we're expecting it again next year with an even thinner majority.
Laura, how should we be thinking about Musk's power over Republicans and maybe what that signals in terms of those spending cuts, tax cuts, everything that's really been driving some of the trading action over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely saw Elon Musk flex power, tweeting up basically a storm about the CR. And ultimately, the bipartisan deal that Speaker Mike Johnson originally had fell apart when that happened. And, it was ultimately President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance who came in to deal that final blow. But Elon Musk was certainly creating problems, and people were very aware on the Hill of that, concerned as that started to kind of happen, and he was continuing to tweet against it. And so I think it shows the influence he has after being an absolutely huge supporter of Trump. And, next year, obviously, he's working on this Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And so that's going to be a really influential project as well. I think Republicans are already showing they take that very seriously. They're talking about huge amounts of spending cuts. And I think that's something they'll look to DOGE to kind of identify for them and try to help unite them, because they are talking about $2.5 trillion of spending cuts. And spending cuts in Congress, they can sound good at first to Republicans. Then you start to find political problems. And it's really, really hard to get together on a set of spending cuts.
Laura, you know who flexed President-elect at a bro-type event over the weekend, saying Elon's not becoming president. He's not some former shadow president. Do you think this relationship just ends really badly?
I mean, that's certainly a possibility. It's certainly in a situation like this. I mean, I think that you saw last week, one of the things that Democrats in Congress honed in on was saying, it looks like a President-elect Musk right now. And I think you saw them doing that because they knew it would get under Trump's skin. They knew that would be sort of a real needle in the side. And, but Musk, we'll see how much his influence lasts. And I think either way, we're seeing a lot of the dynamics that, from a Trump return to Washington, there are some really powerful figures, whether they're in official positions or not. If they've got his ear, it's a powerful place to be. And we're seeing Trump sort of make last minute decisions to come into these congressional negotiations and make his stamp. And he, not minding that it might make life a lot harder for Republicans in Congress. He's going to want what he wants.